everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. At some point, I'm going to be joined by Ken Weeb from Sportsnet, but we've got jobs, and he's a little busy doing his right now. So he's going to take a little bit of time, but we're going to bring in Scotty Billick, who we all know you love having on the show. The Flute is going to make an appearance here today from back home in Winnipeg, where, my goodness, is it 3 a.m. right now? Oh, no, 1 a.m. Sorry, 1 a.m. I was transferring the time. Still, really appreciate him stepping up to the plate there. I'll bring him in right away. Just give my usual spiel that we start the show off with. Hey, if you've been watching this show, you know that at the beginning of the year, I talked about that first Rangers game and that I thought the Rangers, probably deserved a better fate in that game against the Winnipeg Jets. I thought the Winnipeg Jets were lucky that the Rangers were playing on back-to-back nights. You got to give credit where credit's due. We walk into the situation in the Winnipeg Jets playing on back-to-back nights. They did that earlier this year against Vegas. It didn't turn out too well for them. I gave them, the same. I don't want to call it an excuse, but it's a reality of a situation. I know that Ken and I have disagreed on this. To me, it's just science. I took a lot of this in university. It's hard for the body to recover and be at peak performance when you've exerted that kind of effort and you're rolling back in 24 hours or less, doing the same thing over again. The Jets, I know this is an inferior Arizona Coyotes team. We were watching the morning skate, and it was a little bit like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? It really is a no-name team. The one thing I heard about this team before coming into this, though, is that, what they give up in name power, they try to make up with effort. I think we saw that here tonight. So I think the Jets came in after playing last night in a game they had to fight and push to get back into and pull off the victory the way they did, and walked in here tonight and had a team that was going to give them at least an honest effort throughout the night. And the Jets met that effort, didn't look like they were doing too well in the first. We're going to talk about that because it most definitely needs to be talked about, but found a way to win this. We'll get into this a little bit. It's going to be a hot topic of conversation, the whole found a way angle. Someone just reached out to me on Twitter and knows that I was, kind of done with the we found a way kind of mentality under the old Paul Maurice regime and the patting of the backs of their own backs that came with that situation. We need to address that. I think I've got a little more leeway than I have in the past with that kind of mindset right now, and I will tell you why that is. But first, we got to get our main man, Scotty Billick, in here so he can give us his take on what's happening here. Scotty, welcome to the show. Great to have you back. The audience is going to be excited already. There's a buffet sitting here. Ken is not going to be able to hit it for a while. I'd love to see you go at that thing. What'd you see here tonight?
Well, funny, I was at the Bombers game watching it because the Bombers was like an absolute nothing game, nothing burger game. Bombers won 24-9 for folks who weren't watching. But so I watched the first period kind of after it happened, kind of on rerun, and I was like, yeah, this sort of seems like a first period you'd get from a team that just played the night before, and a pretty it was a tough game last night for the Jets. I mean, obviously they came back. They seemed to do their best work in the second and third period, and I think you saw that again tonight here. But I thought the first two goals. I mean, the first one, the Fisher. Well, they're both Fisher goals, but I thought the first one was kind of, it was a good drive to the net, and they found him, and he got his stick down on the ice, and as Don Cherry used to say, you keep your stick on the ice, and that was that goal. I thought the second goal was probably the worst one against, because the Jets were just kind of caught sleeping on the face-off there, and you could see, guys just trying to catch up to what eventually was just a very quick goal. So, but then this is the thing, and you kind of mentioned it, right? Like this whole whatever. I'm going to bring back an old term here too from the Maurice era: stay in the fight. That's kind of what the Jets have been doing this year. They've stayed around. To be fair, terrifically fair to the Jets, I think they make the adjustments in between periods a lot better than they used to. I think this team in the second period looked a lot different than it did in the first period. And then the third period came, and they were like the team that played St. Louis on Monday night. So, it's weird, but, I think the Jets, the hallmark early in the season, has been their ability to adjust in game and not between games. And I think that's been a big deal for the Jets in pulling out a win last night. And, in Los Angeles, won a game that they didn't deserve at all to win. And tonight in Arizona, where you're coming off the back to back, and I totally agree with you, Sean. Like, it's difficult to recover in this league. It's difficult to, move a time zone and all that. Yeah, yeah, time zones exactly. And go from a time zone to a time zone, get into a city. You're in a new rink. It's completely from what I've seen, no NHL amenities in that place in terms of the just the rooms you'd have, the massage table, whatever you would need. That stuff looks pretty primitive out there. And Sean, you can talk about that place too. But yeah, I think the Jets played a game. You figured the Arizona Coyotes would come out in front of their brand new rink, in front of their 4,600 fans or whatever it is, and kind of give it a good effort. And they did in the first period, and they churn out a 2-0 lead. I think the game turns on that Perfetti goal near like, what is it, 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left in the period. That's just like Cole Perfetti. I'm sure we'll get to him. A hell of a game. Like, you want to see a game from a guy who is, people have been, where's maybe Cole Perfetti been a little bit quiet in the start of the year, but he's come on. He's got 3 goals now. But that goal was just, it was brilliant in the way that he won the puck. It was brilliant in the way that he was patient in front of Velmelka, and it was brilliant in the way that he finished it. I mean, that's what Cole Perfetti can do. He's so smart that he creates the space, and what his feet can't do at times in terms of speed, his brain can do to create the space to make a goal like that happen. And then you see Mark Scheifele, in that goal. I mean, that's a Mark Scheifele goal that we may have not seen in the last couple of years. Where like that's Mark Scheifele at his best and doing what he needs to do to be the leader offensively on this team. I think he's up to 6 goals now. He's scored some really timely goals for this team. And then what do you say about Blake Wheeler? I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'm thinking Pierre-Luc Dubois is not looking back at Wheeler there and taking that shot, and then he looks back at Wheeler, he puts it there, and the old captain goal there, even though he's not the captain anymore. That was a captain's goal from Blake Wheeler to finish off that play. And that's got to feel pretty good for Blake Wheeler to get that pass from Dubois in overtime. I think Blake Wheeler's been through a lot this season, obviously personally, at least losing the captaincy. That was a big goal from Blake Wheeler tonight. I think both personally and obviously. No, there's no Blake, no Blair Witch sequel tonight. But yeah, I know. I thought it was a good team game from the Jets outside of the first. I mean, and even then, I mean, they got outshot 9-7. It was just kind of the way that the goals went in. I think that will be bothersome to this team, and the slow start again, that sort of thing. The both goals, it came like halfway through the period, but at least the first one, but it was like 30 seconds later for Perfetti getting that answer. The Jets needed that to stay, I think, in this game. A quick answer, or at least get a goal out of that first period, and they did. And yeah, I was really impressed from what I saw from Cole Perfetti, probably most out of anybody on the night. He just had a really good game, and I think he's been kind of ramping up into that. I think Cole Perfetti had a tough preseason. He'd been drilled from behind in those 2 games in Calgary, or the home and home with Calgary, and then a couple of times more in the regular season. And for a guy who was had a pretty significant back injury and a shoulder injury, but more so the back injury, I think it's just taken him some time to kind of get back from that. I remember one time on the road trip last week, Cole Perfetti comes out. He's got this massive ice pack looking thing on his back, trying to figure it out. And that guy's been playing through some pain. But yeah, I thought he had a great night. And I think it's just one of those types of wins where here's the thing. Like, if the Jets came out of this trip 2-1, I think that was a win. If they lose tonight, though, then they go into Vegas again for the second time in essentially a week and have to beat them to go 2-1. And they weren't able to do that, obviously, the other night there, or last week there in Vegas. They're playing on the second half of a back-to-back when you already beat the defending Stanley Cup champions in overtime. So, I think this, win or lose in Vegas on Sunday, and I imagine there might be a little bit of a tying on tomorrow night for the Jets a little bit out there in Vegas. But yeah, like I think it was a big win to get that here. And now, what are the Jets now? 5-3 now. So this whole prediction of trying to get out of here, maybe with a 6-3, 6-3-1 record, or even a 5-4-1 record, getting through a really tough schedule to start the year, above 500. And Morgan Barron talked about before the Jets left, kind of stopped teetering around that 500 range. Well, now the Jets are 2 games clear of 500 going into Vegas, and feeling good about themselves that they hadn't played their best hockey, but they were able to still find wins, and that goes to the whole staying in the fight and blah blah blah. But I think this team is a different team than they used to be. And Sean, you can kind of maybe expand on what you're meaning there about that whole kind of mantra that they used to have under Paul Maurice. But I think this is a different team. I think there's a lot of belief in this team, and I don't think they carry good or bad momentum, I suppose, from period to period, the same way that they used to. They don't get run out of the building. They don't get really down on themselves. I think Cole Perfetti said it perfectly at the end of the night, or after the game, talking just about how they all still feel good about themselves even going into that first intermission, regardless of if they're down a goal or if they hadn't scored that goal. He was kind of saying that they feel like they're still in the game. And so I think that was one of those things that they showed tonight. I mean, they were still in that game, obviously because of the Perfetti goal, but then as they went, they showed really good resiliency, as Perfetti said a few times, and then were able to kind of fight their way back in the game, and then get a win in overtime.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just saw a buffet attack, the likes of which I haven't seen from Ken Weeb since the early days of Kenny and Renny.
You wanted that?
Is there no stone left unturned with that? The good thing about a rant like that, a buffet savaging like that, is I can go in any direction with it. One of the things I thought that you really popped out there, and I know that the chat room was jumping in on as well, was the Perfetti goal. I know a lot of people have him as their Lamplighter. For me, this is the perfect Johnston Group got you covered play of the game, because we like to say that's the thing that, when things are going in a different direction, it kind of turns things around. It kind of bails you out. I take a look at that goal that Cole Perfetti scored, which probably in my mind is the Trans-Canada Brewing Lamplighter of the game. But I think it's got to be for sure the We've Got You Covered play of the game for the Johnston Group, because I think that the Jets were a little bit dead in the water. And to your point, the Coyotes come out and they get that second goal. It's a quick one off the draw, kind of seemed to catch the Jets by surprise. And you were already looking at this and thinking, okay, here we go again. It's just like the other night. This game is going to get out of control. And just like they did in the last game, with the Scheifele goal, they get that goal that kind of like stems the bleeding. And really kind of halts things. And you could see, I don't know where that game was going if Cole Perfetti doesn't do that, but he goes out with that one hand, steals the puck, takes it in, scores an absolutely gorgeous goal. It's the whole idea of, he kind of goes out and says, okay, I'll do it myself, and halts the momentum of that Arizona Coyotes team in that manner. I don't think this game turns out the way it does if it's not for that. I think that stemmed the bleeding. The Coyotes never really got a lot of chances after that. The Coyotes just, I didn't think, had a lot of offensive push after that point. That got the Jets rolling. So to me, that's an obvious Johnston Group. We got you covered play of the game. And I want to give a shout out to the Johnston Group. You won't find two businesses with the same challenges, but you will find 30,000 businesses with Chambers Plan employee benefits, proudly administered by our friends at Johnston Group. Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits because it evolves with the way you work and live. The plan is run as a not-for-profit designed specifically to support small businesses, and its unique pooling strategy keeps rates stable, so you won't have any surprises at your next renewal. Chambers Plan now comes with professional consulting on key financial, legal, and HR issues, and Teladoc telemedicine services are included with every health option. See how Chambers Plan can benefit your business by visiting chambersplan.com. .ca, and thank you so much to the Johnson Group, the Kenny and Renny original OGs. Love to have them on. I'm also going to say this. I noticed there's a lot of Fabio comments. I don't have the hair to pull off Fabio. I'm thinking the only reason I'm getting those is because I'm looking so dapper in this suit here from Vittorio Rossi. Frankie has me looking like this. He knows how to do it. I got a lot of compliments on the suits. If you want to get suits like this, if you want to look like Kenny and Renny do, when we're looking sharp, not when we're looking like slobs at home. When we're out on the street and we're making it work, go see Frank and the boys at Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. I'm going to hand this one over to you, Scott. You get to pick your Lamplighter of the game, your Trans-Canada Brewing Lamplighter of the game. Give me an idea of what you saw.
I mean, it's hard not to give Perfetti that goal. I think it was the answer to what the question that the Arizona Coyotes asked of the Jets. It's like, are we going to take a 2-0 lead into the first intermission and, give you kind of a bad feeling after, the win last night here's, and for, just to stop and who broke Billick, it was T. Will with, Scotty just made that buffet fear the fork, which is hilarious because I guess they have that sign there or whatever.
Yes. Like, if you look way behind me in the background, in between the two flags, it says "Fear of the Fork." Exactly. Hey, bravo! Give a round of claps for T. Will because T. Will's on it today as well. Good stuff.
I'm not high. I'm high on life. I'm drinking Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper. But no, I mean that ruined me. That was a great one from T1. Anyways. I think the Cole Perfetti goal. It's such a good individual piece of skill. Like, it's not just the fact that he answered it, whatever it was, 30 seconds, give or take a few there. It was the fact that this is what Cole Perfetti is good at. And I said it in the buffet, but I'll go back for seconds. He makes the poke check, and I don't know who the defenseman was on the play, but he makes the poke check and then takes the puck out the other end, goes straight to the net. And then there is the opportunity, as he said earlier on, to pass it. I think it was to Pierre-Luc Dubois there. But instead, I mean, he reads the play so well that he knows that, okay, he can do that. But the defenseman had backed off onto Dubois. So this is Cole Perfetti's job at this point, essentially, to prove it, right? I mean, the defenseman's not giving you the pass anymore. So make it work and what did he ever, right? The Melka, I mean, he's got him kind of sprawled out just enough that he can wrap it around him and put it into the back of the net. I mean, really good, really, really solid goal. I mean, you expect that sort of thing from Mark Scheifele or the Kyle Connors or whatever. I think Cole Perfetti took it into his own hands on that one. It's an unassisted goal on a brilliant piece of, kind of forechecking defensive work, whatever you want to call it, even though it was still in the Coyotes zone. But it was just, a brilliant piece of work by him to get the puck off of the defender, off the Arizona player, and then really smart just in how he deposited it into the back of the net. And, just outside of the time and all that stuff, it was just a really damn good looking goal. And I think that's why it's, if I had to pick a Lamplighter, that's certainly it. I mean, obviously the Wheeler goal, Dubois to Wheeler 2-on-1. I mean, it's a great goal. It wins the game. But are the Jets still in the game if Cole Perfetti doesn't score that goal? And I'm not entirely sure. So, that'd be my vote for the Lamplighter of the night.
Yeah, there you go. And we got to throw out a little bit of love to the Trans-Canada Brewing Company, Lamplighter, Amber Ale. They're all in on the show here. And if you want to a chance at winning an 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, just absolutely delicious stuff. All you got to do is leave your Lamplighter. I know a lot of you have done so already. Great stuff. So leave us your Lamplighter. Just by doing so, that allows you a chance at winning an 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. You just got to tell us what your favorite goal of the game was. I know a lot of people are going to throw Blake Wheeler in that, as they should. That was a nice little goal in that situation. But I also want to give a shout out. I haven't seen he or she in the chat room so far, but Dryland Fisherman won after last show, our 8-pack of Trans-Canada Brewing Company Lamplighter Amber Ale. To pick it up, you just got to head down to the tap room at Trans-Canada Brewing Company at 11290 Kenniston. I know some of the people have gone down and pick up their 8-pack. They've got some of the pizza. You should do that. Their pizza is absolutely phenomenal. But I'm giving a warning to Dryland Fisherman again. I don't see he or she in the comments section, which means maybe they're not watching right now. I understand that it's late, but the rules as they stand, if you don't send us your contact information, Dryland Fisherman, I don't have your contact information. If you don't get a hold of us, you can get a hold of me by direct messaging me on Twitter or leaving your comments. You know, if you are okay in public sending out your email address or something like that, you can leave it in the comments section when you watch us here on YouTube. But if you don't claim it, then it adds to the next one. And if you don't claim it, the next person who wins with the Lamplighter is going to win a 16 pack. So there you go. That's how it goes. Anyways, good stuff. I wanted to just touch a little bit on the Cole Perfetti goal. I know I talked about it before. I don't think I need to add about this. Here's why I think it's important, Scotty. Cole Perfetti is, has potential to be a star player in this league. He was most definitely a star player in the OHL. And the one thing I'd say about him is from what I saw last year, we saw clear signs that he was going to be a good player, enough so that, people are going to think that I'm going to take this in a little bit of a negative direction. Keep in mind that he's my pick to win the Calder Trophy at the end of the year. That's the kind of belief that I have in him. But I will say that last year, what I saw from a very young player cutting his teeth in the NHL was a player that whatever success he had, he was making nice plays, but it was developed off of the star players that he was playing with. Sure. Phenomenal opportunity for a player like Cole Perfetti to walk into the league and start playing on a line with a player like PLD and Kyle Connor. That is a phenomenal situation. And he did decently at it. But I think what a play like that shows is Cole Perfetti went to the OHL and would take games over and would take shifts over and would take plays over and just get it done himself. And in the end, that's what I think star players do. They create something out of nothing. It's the one thing I always said early, way back in the early days of the Jets in the early 2000 and teens, when people, if you remember this, Scotty, no one said it by the end, but early on, people always talked about trading Dustin Byfuglien. Yeah. And I remember the one thing that I would always caution about trading Dustin Byfuglien is Dustin Byfuglien was a player that could create something out of nothing consistently on a number of nights. And to me, that's what defines a star player. Connor McDavid does it every single night. Yeah. He goes out and takes a nothing play, and then all of a sudden it's a dangerous play. The vast majority of players in the NHL can't do that. And I think it's important for Cole Perfetti on a play like that, which was a nothing play, went out, stole the puck, took it to the net, used the fact that there was another Jets player sneaking into the slot to create space for himself so that the defenseman that should have been in between Cole Perfetti and the net looked more at the idea that Cole Perfetti was going to pass it off, and that created the lane. He was able to go around the goaltender, and of course he freezes the goaltender because the goaltender is worried he's going to try and jam at 5-hole, and that allows him to go around him. There is so much cerebrally going on in that play that Cole Perfetti did right, and it's one of those things that star players can do, create something out of nothing. He did that, and being able to do that allows him to know I can do that in this league. I think we start seeing more and more and more plays like that coming from Cole Perfetti, and that's a good thing. I think there's a lot of times that potential star players who were star players in the NCAA or the OHL sometimes get to the NHL and they never get there because they never kind of pull those plays off that build that confidence. I think Cole Perfetti is going to walk out of that and be like, you know what, I can do in the NHL what I did at the OHL level, and that is a really good thing for him, and it's a really, really good thing for the Winnipeg Jets. Okay, let's switch gears before we go to Wheeler. I wanted to go to Mark Scheifele and just get your thoughts on what you see from him, because here's a guy that I watched him tonight, and I had that feeling, Scott, I don't know about you, but I had the feeling throughout that game the Jets were inexorably going to get back into that game, score their way back in, tie it. I thought that they were probably going to win, especially when they got it to overtime. But I wasn't surprised one bit that it was Mark Scheifele that scored that goal. But one of the other things that, and I won't say I'm surprised, because from what I've seen from him this year, I feel Mark Scheifele is entirely locked in. But he was running around on the ice, shutting down passing lanes, doing really savvy zone exits where he would hold on to the puck, use his body. There was one point he was down in the corner here. He got the puck and a man was right on him, and he absorbed the contact, spun off him, let that player kind of chase him for a little bit, knowing that he was never going to catch him. But the cerebral part of that is that the players up ice aren't stepping up on Mark Scheifele because they think the guy who's chasing him has him. But Mark Scheifele knows that he's got to step on this guy, that he's not going to catch him, and uses that, kind of pursuit by that player who he knows he can put on the burners and leave in the rearview mirror at any time as a way to kind of get the defenseman stuck in no man's land. I mean, Mark Scheifele is a cerebral player, but when you add to that the skill that he has, but even more importantly, the kind of buy-in that we've seen from him that I thought we saw here tonight, I just thought this was another subtle, phenomenal game for Mark Scheifele. I don't think he's had any misses this year. Scott, what have you seen from him that culminated in another important goal tonight?
I mean, hands down, the Jets' 7th game MVP, I guess. 7 games in MVP. I don't even know what kind of percentage that is in terms of
almost 10% of the season. Almost 10%.
10% of the way through the season. I mean, I think you would see Mark Scheifele on a few Selke ballots at this point. And we kind of always joked about that, like he's never going to be on it because he doesn't play in the defensive zone. But I mean, can you not say, like, can you argue against him not being on the Selke this right now? At least, I mean, this is so ridiculous conversation, but I mean, he's played. It's such night and day, right? Compared to where he was over the last year for sure.
1 second, Scott. 1 second. I just have to stamp this out before anyone takes this anywhere. BA Split saying I said he should be traded. I, probably more than any journalist in this market, said pause when we're talking about Mark Scheifele. This is a nuclear option that should be studied inside and out, because you don't get a guy like Mark Scheifele back in a trade, and you don't get very many players in the NHL who are just built-in point per game players. This is either BA Split trying to antagonize me into going off like I'm doing right now, and if he did, bravo, sir, you did a good job of it. Or this is BA Split getting it totally and completely wrong. I think he got it totally and completely wrong. I'm going to use a wake up on BA Split. Yeah, I'll dish him out when Kenny's not here. Be better, BA Split. Be better. Sorry. Resume what you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Turd Ferguson here is telling me don't get it too far. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I don't think I am. So again, it's 10. Like I already said, it's kind of ridiculous to even talk about that. It's 7 games in, but Mark Scheifele has played that well. I guess maybe the thing that leads me there, and like I was saying before, BA Split kind of was getting Shawnee going, was that we're just not used to seeing this from Mark in recent memory, right? Where he's back in the defensive zone, sometimes playing like a center should, and is the furthest forward back in the defensive zone, But, if you look at that Scheifele goal tonight, it's the way that he creates it. He comes into the zone with the puck, right? And Shane Gostisbehere is kind of, I think that's 14, is Shane Gostisbehere. He's coming down. Mark uses his arm to kind of like throw him essentially aside. Then takes the puck and then dishes it out in front, circles the net, comes in, picks up the rebound at that point, and then rips it in. Mark Scheifele, in my opinion, is back to being one of the smartest players in the NHL. And I don't think he lost his smarts. I think he just lost, as he said to me in Banff, and as he said from times, is that he lost a bit of the purpose, right? He didn't really know what he was doing out on the ice. Mark Scheifele is the type of player that I think is that he is the type of guy that needs to be coached. He needs to be pushed by somebody else, a higher kind of figure, a head coach or a trainer or whoever it is. He's got that back this season. So Mark Scheifele doesn't have to worry about coming to the rink anymore, unsure of what the team is doing, unsure of, any of those types of things, right? He knows the direction. He knows what's being asked of him. He's not being pulled in 2 directions anymore. And I think that's allowed Mark Scheifele to just play like Mark Scheifele used to play. And so now you're seeing a guy who is very confident in what he's doing, and has confidence now to just go out and do what he knows he can do. And so again, I think if fans haven't watched that goal back, that second goal, that goal by Mark Scheifele, and I know I picked Cole Perfetti, but it's just what Mark Scheifele does on that goal to create it for himself, because he is the one that essentially assists it, makes the initial assist by taking him to the zone, basically physically pushing Shane Gostisbehere onto the ground. I mean, Shane Gostisbehere was literally on his knees, swimming around, unsure of what happened. And then Mark Scheifele has the wherewithal. I mean, I was just watching it again here, watching it kind of real time. He gives it to Perfetti, and Perfetti back to the point. The shot goes through, but then Mark gets it, and he just rips the shot. I mean, Mark knows where to be. He's in the right places. He's finding the soft ice again. These are all the things. Mark Scheifele is the most engaged Winnipeg Jet right now, perhaps outside of Connor Hellebuck, in terms of just the way that these guys are so laser focused on what they're doing this season. And so I think Mark Scheifele is playing the best hockey he's played probably since the 2018-19 season. And if we really want to go back to the 2017-18 playoffs, Mark Scheifele is a game changer again. He's got 6 goals in 8 games now. I mean, this guy is playing at the level. You remember when he would always say, "Oh, I want to be talked about with the Austin Matthews and the Connor McDavids and all that." He's still not there yet, and I don't know if he'll ever be, because those two guys are completely different.
No,
but he is at least in the I'm back in the upper echelon of hockey players conversation, right? Like, you can look at Mark Scheifele, the way that he's playing now. He's back to being the elite number 55 that the Jets knew a while ago, before everything happened, before COVID, before all that, before his life kind of got turned upside down. I feel like I'm going on the Fresh Prince Bel-Air thing there when I say that, but it's just I think he's playing so well in terms of just he knows what type of game he's supposed to play, and he's doing it. I think that stems from the coaching staff. I mean, I think step back from the. I just got a text from Kenny to tell me to step back from the buffet so you can let him.
Well, hey, let's do exactly that. Yeah. I was gonna say you have been feasting, and we want you to feast some more. But someone's about to elbow their way into the buffet. Time for Kenny to hit the show. Here comes Kenny. Kenny, I'm not sure what you've seen in the show here, but your buffet was laid out. It was it looks like a tornado went through it. Scotty has been hitting on every single point. This is one of those things where you get a mountain of a plate and you wonder how the person is keeping everything on without it falling off. He ate every single bite. There's not a crumb left on that plate. And there's still more to go. There's still more to go. But you need to get in there. I don't know if you want to go and hop in on the Scheifele conversation we've just been happening here, or if you want to kind of back things up and give like a kind of more global idea of what you saw here tonight. But I've restocked the buffet. It's endless here. It's time for you to feast. You go in whatever direction you want to go.
Well, I think Scott has Scheifele covered, and we've discussed Mark quite a bit in the early going. I'd like to talk more about Perfetti. I know you highlighted the comment that this may have been Cole Perfetti's best game in the NHL, and I'm not sure I remember a game where he was more dangerous as he was this evening. I'm not sure if Scotty was saying that he picked Scheifele for the Lamplighter, but my Lamplighter was certainly going to be Perfetti's goal. Just an exceptional individual effort to strip Josh Brown of the puck along the boards, and then the net drive that follows. I mean, that's just an outstanding net drive.
Kenny, he also with that goal was given the Johnston Group got you covered play of the game, because the Jets were going downhill and he just single-handedly went out and stopped the car with one hand and started pushing it back up the hill. So continue on.
Certainly did. No, I mean, that was just an exceptional play. And I think, to be perfectly honest, one of the reasons why the flip-flop was made I know Scott Arniel said it was to try to get Kyle Connor going because we know the chemistry between Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor. I think that the move is also kind of made to help Mark Scheifele out, to see those guys, maybe see what they have together in terms of the, you have a couple of really high-end thinkers together there. I mean, what we did see, we saw Connor was dangerous playing with Dubois again. And interestingly enough, Scott Arniel goes back to the original overtime pairings, and they deliver the game-winning goal, even though the other guys had played well together during the rest of the game. So just another, solid effort by the Jets. A bit of a slow start, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the game in LA where they were outshot dramatically. T. Mackey, that is a solid one. There was no partying on campus. Sean and I are here on assignment, and sometimes when the assignments come in with a 3 a.m. Eastern deadline, we had to do a little bit of writing there. But it's interesting game. We'll get to the atmosphere in a minute. I would have also. I would like to add the. My honorable mention on the Johnson group got you covered would be Josh Morrissey. Josh up to now 8 assists on the season.
Oh, yeah.
His one-timer, obviously I think it must have either hit Blake Wheeler or Blake got the puck to Scheifele for the one-timer there. I think that Josh Morrissey has just absolutely been fantastic for the Winnipeg Jets. We say that almost each and every night. But just another, exceptional effort from Josh, and that was such an important play. Brendan Dillon getting it over to him for that goal by Scheifele, who he was involved a lot during the game. I found, Scott nailed it there with the way he held off Gostisbehere. His zone entries today were absolutely fantastic. His ability to kind of find space for himself at various times. So. Yeah, it just was a solid effort for the Jets. Optimal, no, but they're playing on a back-to-back, and they found a way to get it done. And I thought they were much better than they were, much closer to the template than they were a game earlier, that's for sure.
Well, that's it, Kenny.
Well,
There's
now
still some food.
Is Sean?
Food to be eaten.
Are we back?
Sean's back. Yes, there you go.
Were you guys still going? Were you guys still living the life?
I was going, but
I'm
not full. I just don't want to hog the food. I like to Didn't you see? Was
stare at my bowl of soup?
Yeah, that's right. I gave up my piece of pizza so that our pal Greg Wyshynski could eat it at Bianco today. So team player. Oh, hey, let's get into this. Sorry, let's
hold on.
Sorry,
just a little bit of housekeeping. Dryland fisherman. Someone did bring it up. I'm not sure if he / or she was in the show earlier, but Dryland fisherman. Yeah, that's a first dead error. Thanks for pointing that out, Dryland fisherman.
Hey, first game in Mullet Arena.
Yeah, exactly. The way things went today, and we're going to get into the atmosphere. We're going to get into what you want us to talk about first, but we'll get into the atmosphere. We're lucky this is the only thing that's happened. As mad as I am for you pointing that out, Dryland fisherman, you won our Trans-Canada Brewing Lamplighter Amber Ale. So you got to send me a direct message to my Twitter account. Give me your email so I can get that across to you, so you can get your Frosty 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, because you picked the Lamplighter of the game. So good job with that. Ken, did you want to go a different direction than the atmosphere?
No, let's go here first, and let's start, Scott. What did it look like on TV, and then we'll dig into what it looked like inside the building.
If we're doing atmosphere and if we're doing TV, I got something I want to do first here. Okay, so if we're doing that, I know that it's been called for. I know some people saw me earlier on. The mullets that they're handing out are technically headbands, so we're going to make this a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show and Scotty show. Let's bring it. I feel you guys like
It's perfect.
this was destiny.
Yeah.
It's almost like the whole Sean's headband thing happened years ago, so that this moment could arrive. I absolutely love this. This is good stuff. What a good. Okay, I'll say this. Let's for a second walk away. Hey, is there a better example of like business on the top and parts back than
brown and then like just platinum ball?
Yeah.
You know we love wrestling. You look like Michael Hayes right now on the Fabulous Freebirds right there. That is an absolute amazing pull by me. You even got the beard. That's a Michael Hayes special for you right there.
I did look at my hit on Tim and Friends and on the Hockey Central and look at like even my mannerisms. Like I was like kind of flipping it like this. I very much looked like I was cutting a wrestling promo. It was a ton of fun. Let's not for a second walk into this and say like that this, moving to a 5,000 seat arena is a good thing for the Arizona Coyotes, is a good thing for the NHL. But the one thing I think that we should talk about before Scotty gets into talking about what it looked like at home was the Coyotes and the NHL. They don't want to be in this situation, but they're owning it, right? And they're trying to do the best with it. And I think coming out of the gate, stuff like this, the way they handled this, I think they have made the best they can out of a pretty tough situation.
Oh, bang on. And the mullet being a great example. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. That's a fabulous idea for the opener. I mean, when we walked into the rink today and saw the mullets being placed on the seats with "You Do You" on the back, I mean, that's just absolutely tremendous stuff. Right? I mean, the players even, Sam Gagne even had to laugh about it, saying it adds to the atmosphere. I mean, is it something they're going to do every single night? We're not sure, but I would love to see that be something that you see in the student section or something every game. I mean, people were leaning right into it, and I absolutely love the fact that they had it going. In terms of the atmosphere, just dynamite. I mean, we weren't sure, and I was talking to some of the Coyotes players on Thursday. They weren't even. They thought they might have the full ASU band going. I mean, the drum line was nice. They were into it. The crowd was into it. Yeah, I mean, some people were saying, "Oh, well, it's just like Nashville with the college chants." Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's part of the charm. Good for them. Guess what? This is a college town and an NHL game being played on a college campus. So if they want to chant, it's all your fault, and you can't do that. Bring it on. Don't be ripping them for doing it. I love the fact that they're doing it. Anyone who's played in a college arena, that's fun. It's part of the fun. You know, all they need to do is get the rustling of the newspapers and the who is he when they're doing the pregame announcements for the visitors. But I love the atmosphere. People were into it. And this is the beautiful part about it. I mean, the majority of the people there were Coyotes fans. There were a bunch of Jets fans that found their way in there, but there were also pure hockey fans, Sean. You saw the guy in the Minnesota North Stars hoodie. You saw people in Seattle Kraken jerseys, a team that's just entering its second year in the league. The atmosphere was fun, and that's the thing that we can never forget. It's hockey. It's supposed to be fun. I love the fact that they're leaning into it. Do they want to be here for 4 years? Of course not. But if that's what it ends up being, if they can get a new arena built, then this is what we saw. If the Coyotes can get an arena in Tempe or in this area, they have a chance to see what happens. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see how that all goes. But I love the atmosphere, and I also, again, would the Jets have, it's possible the first four teams that roll through or have a bit of a directive to not be speaking openly or outwardly about the conditions, possibly. But you know what? Scott O'Neill said it best too. It's a wide open space. All you got to do is be able to have a place where you can get dressed to play. I mean, yes, it didn't look great with the curtains on Wednesday, whatever else, when videos were posted. They were behind schedule on that front, but they got it built. It was fine, and the atmosphere in the building was fun. Was it 20,000 boisterous fans like you see in Montreal? No, it wasn't. But the 5,000 people, or the just 4,600 and change that were there, when you consider the seats that were killed because of the TV, I mean, it was a fun atmosphere. It was festive, and a lot of people are going to go home thinking that was a pretty memorable evening. The Jets are going to feel that way. They were the first visiting team to play here. But if you were in attendance, you saw a fun hockey game and a great atmosphere, and that's what I'm going to take away from it.
What'd you see, Scotty, from the TV at home?
Yeah, it's funny because you think it's a little bit I mean, I thought the dressing room thing was a little embarrassing, like, to be honest with you. But you watch the first game, like some of the organic stuff that just came out of it, including what you're wearing right now. Like, if you're gonna put lipstick on a pig, sometimes you should probably you do it right, and sometimes the pig might look a little better, and and I almost thought that like it almost like they put the right color lipstick on the pig and it looked all right, like the camera angle, it's in a smaller building just based on watching it. Like you could totally see the camera angle was different. I mean, I saw what Paul Edmonds posted, what his visuals were like, but like you, so if you've watched college hockey games or even WHL games on TV, there's a certain type of echo in those stadiums if you watch them on TV or in the rinks, and if you're in the rinks themselves, you also kind of hear that, and that's kind of what came through the TV for me. It felt like it looked at times like it was an NHL game, but then at other times when you just kind of listen to the acoustics a little bit, it really felt like it was a junior game. And if you go to Keystone Center, even just a couple hours down the road, they have, I think it's around 5,000 that they can fit in there, maybe 5,200 in there. And they don't even have one end of the place in Keystone Center. It's kind of where the Zamboni goes and the dressing rooms are and stuff. Yeah, I thought they did a good job with what they had, and as much shit as as much crap as they have taken this year, for where they're going and that sort of thing. I think they made the most of what they could have, and they've taken a lot of crap for it that the NHL has. I still don't think I think this novelty could wear off, but there's also things. I mean, I was just in Vegas last week for the first time for the game, and they still do this whole thing at the beginning, and everybody's seen it 100 times if you watch the team on TV or whatever. But it's still cool, right? Like it's still Vegas. Like that's what makes Vegas Vegas. And the one thing about Arizona is like I don't ever know what made Arizona hockey, but like this might like spark something. And who knows? It's one game. It was cool. Is it just a novelty? Does it wear off? If not, I don't know. Like I just it was a pretty cool kind of thing to see. The mullets were cool. People looked like they were having fun, as you guys said. There's some guy dressed up as a pineapple, and one guy as a whatever. Like you saw. I don't know what the prices are and all that stuff. I don't know any of that kind of thing, but it just it looked like it would like people were having fun watching hockey in Arizona. And yeah, like you didn't have a 20,000 seat stadium with only 7,500 fans in or whatever, but if you can drum up interest with 4,600 fans a night with some cool gimmicks, right? Like that's what Vegas is about, lots of gimmicks and that sort of thing. If you can find a way now, even just accidentally, to find something, hopefully, like Kenny said, maybe in Tempe, maybe close to the college crowd, all that kind of stuff. If you can kind of figure it out down there instead of just asking people to come from a bigger town to come to a game, a hockey game that they don't understand, you can start getting people to kind of maybe come to the game for other reasons. You got to make a show out of it. Maybe it can work. And whatever I saw on TV tonight was cool. I think Cole Perfetti kind of said it was unique, it was weird, it was whatever, but at the end of the day it was kind of a cool experience.
So I'm going to try and give a little bit of insight into this situation here. Can we learn some stuff about this down here? One, the dressing room issue, I kind of thought maybe the players were taking it easy on it because the Players Association was actually part of the issue. You remember last year when the Islanders arena wasn't ready to go, so they started with a ridiculous long road trip to start the season. Yeah. Well, I think the Coyotes wanted to do that as well. The PA, it sounds like, interjected and wanted players home so they could see their families and stuff like that. And that's what forced this dressing room issue. The Coyotes were trying to create a situation where it's these first 4 games, 1 down, 3 more to go, and then there's going to be legit dressing rooms for the teams that come in here. The reason why we saw what we saw here today wasn't necessarily a lack of planning. I don't want to make an excuse. I mean, you're putting yourself in a tough situation. But the PA kind of forced the hand of the Coyotes to come back early like this. So the players really are one of the ones that own that dressing room being like that. And so I think there's probably an understanding within the PA that talked to the players and said, listen, we forced this situation upon the Mullet Arena and upon the Arizona Coyotes in this situation. So maybe let's not go out and force a situation and then beat up on the NHL or the Arizona Coyotes for that situation. So I think there's a little bit of an explanation there of what happened. We're just trying to add what we can behind the scenes. I'm going to give Kenny an opportunity to add what else he knows. The other thing we should get into, because Ken said if that arena ends up happening, to me, I know that this is supposed to be a temporary solution. Temporary is stretching it. It sounds like the earliest point at which we would get out of this Mullet Arena would be 4, if not 5 years for the Arizona Coyotes. The place that they want to go that they don't have secured where they want to build their rink is a former dump site. So it's going to take 2 years of environmental cleaning before it would be cleared as a site where they could build on it. And then from that point, it's going to take 2, if not 3 years for them to build the building that they want to build there. And again, this has got to get through a lot of legal and political hoops to even become a reality. That's the plan they want to do right now, but this is by no means a locked in plan. So what we're seeing here right now, we're seeing the first night of what could be 4 to 5 years of this, but I also think it creates a precarious situation at which this organization, I know a lot of people are talking and saying that this area doesn't deserve a hockey team based on what's happened here. I don't know if I would beat up on the fans for that as much as I would beat up the ownership situation that's happened here over a number of years. And you can go back to a whole lot of different owners for that situation here. But I personally think this team is in a very precarious situation. If things don't work out politically, I don't know what happens at that point. But in the meantime, even if there is clearance, there's 5 years here in which, if this building doesn't get filled, if they start only putting 2,000 people in here, this situation could get ugly. I think that 5 years is a long time. Think about where the league was 5 years ago to where it is now. You never know what could happen, but I do think that in the meantime, this is my personal opinion. I'm sure the NHL wouldn't say this. This is an organization and a marketplace that is hanging on to this team by a thread, and that thread needs to last for 5 years. Ken, I don't know if you think you're going to get someone for.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's interesting, I mean, again, I have, this is not inside knowledge or anything else, but one of the things that could be changing in terms of the landscape, obviously, there's a big vote coming up in November that would lead, to some of the answers that we're looking for. But the NBA situation, to me, really makes this interesting. Once Robert Sarver is forced to sell the Suns, now there's another temporary solution that is possible. Yes, there is a 3-year deal with an option at ASU right now, but if they get that approval, and it's going to take 5 years, 2 of those years could be played downtown, which to me obviously would be a different scenario and situation to be looking at. That's not a 5,000 seat building. So, at the same time, Alex Morello and the ownership group has invested that $25 to $30 million in the annex and the whatever else. But I mean, there has to be some middle ground is what I would project. How things go or where things go will be interesting to see. What we know is there was a time when the Coyotes played downtown where, they made the playoffs and they were, they had good attendance and they were, well supported. But that's a long time ago, and they would like to get back to that. And I mean, we understand why. I mean, this is a sensitive subject for a lot of Jets fans. We understand that. But just in terms of the perspective you talked about, Sean, the situation in Glendale, although it was a great place to go as a reporter, it would be the equivalent of having the Jets play in Portage La Prairie in an NHL-sized arena. So maybe even further than that, to be quite frank. I mean, roughly 40, 50 minutes to an hour away, depending on traffic. So
with the worst traffic. I mean, if anyone has done that trip before, it was gridlock traffic driving from Winnipeg to Port La Prairie. It was miserable. And I'm sorry to interject, Kenny, but
you're right.
Winnipeg, before I did this job, I took every opportunity I had to hit up an NHL game. And I remember I used to think it was crazy. There's all these snowbirds down here. Why aren't they supporting this team? And I was down visiting friends here and went to a Coyotes game, and it was miserable. It was a battle of attrition. You hop into traffic, and we were on vacation by the time I got home because it's gridlock traffic there. It's miserable. You watch the game and then you hop in gridlock traffic to go home. I was miserable and unhappy and tired by the time I was done. And I was on vacation. Can you imagine getting off work on a Tuesday night and then hopping into gridlock traffic to go all the way out there to watch a game? It was an untenable situation. There's a reason fans didn't show up there. And it's not necessarily that there's not engaged hockey fans here. It's that it was a terrible situation. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. I think that's basically all I have on that subject. But I mean, obviously, there's going to be some level of clarity coming in the next month or so in terms of the 3 public hearings and then eventually the vote. But let's shift back to the Jets for a second. I mean, I think one thing we talked about a lot yesterday was the battle for the 6th defenseman job. 2 things on that front, Sean. I saw Logan Stanley in a walking boot today after the game, so I don't anticipate him being, again, we understand that could be, preventative or whatever, but I don't see him being if that's the case. I mean, I don't see him available, in the immediate future here. And the other thing that folks, maybe if they didn't see me on Winnipeg Sports Talk, Nikolai Ehlers was not on the ice today with Kyle Capobianco or Dominic Toninato during the heavily optional morning skate that only included those 2 skaters along with David Riddick. So, I mean, we'll be watching to see what happens with Ehlers. We know he was ruled out for this trip, but with the Jets taking Saturday off, I mean, the next time he's going to skate, it's potentially in Winnipeg would be probably Tuesday, right? So Monday or Tuesday. So we'll see how that goes. But we talked a lot about Dylan Samberg yesterday, Sean. And what did I say? You can't overdo it after 1 game, which wasn't his best game. Today, rock solid on that 3rd pairing with Dylan DeMello, who, Sean, I know you liked his game a lot. And why don't you dig into what you liked about his game?
Just quickly, I'll get into that. I mean, I just thought he was really, really subtly great tonight. His body positioning, he was taking on players a lot bigger than him. There was 1 point loss in Krause game. The size differential between these 2 players. Krause kind of dug into the pads of Riddick on the side of the net. DeMello got in between him and made it clear he wasn't going to get there. I didn't think there was a lot of pushback from the Coyotes after that. His body positioning, he was moving the puck in and out all night. It was I just thought, he there were so many instances where he had his back to the boards. Sorry, not to the boards, his back to the play, puck on the boards, protecting his protecting the puck from the oncoming forechecking player, and was somehow able, eyes in the back of his head, to turn and find that right outlet pass time and time again. That was a masterclass, and being able to take and put a player like Dylan Samberg, who, Ken, you talked about not having his best effort. You texted me to talk about his bounce back. I mean, I think it makes it a lot easier for a young player to bounce back when you've got a veteran player playing with him who's playing like that. Great job by Dylan DeMello to do that. I wanted to ask this quickly, and then we have to tackle one topic, because I said we would earlier on. But Keith Forsyth asked, will anyone answer why Quebec is not a better option? I don't know why this isn't better known. I was at the Board of Governors meetings, I think in 2015 or something like that. Listen, the NHL has been striving for years to get balance in the conferences. Before this, there were 32 teams in the East and 30 teams in the West. We're finally in a situation where you've got 32 teams in the West, 32 teams in the East. It's the balance the NHL has been trying to achieve for years. Bill Daly said in 2015 that they would not be taking a team from the Western Conference and dropping them into the Eastern Conference. So you're not going to have the Arizona Coyotes fail and go all the way to Quebec. It's not going to happen. If you want a team in Quebec, it needs to be a team, one of the 16 teams from the East that fails. That's the landing spot. So this isn't a situation where where the NHL is trying to keep the NHL out of Quebec for as long as they can. If a team in the East fails, that's where they're going. It's set up. It's ready to go. Book it. Mark it down. There's just not a team in the East that's failing right now. Houston or KC, this is it. This is where it's going to go. So everyone keeps asking that question. I don't know why it's not publicized more, but that's the situation and where we're at. Quebec is not getting a team unless it comes from the East. That's just the way it goes. The NHL has the balance it wants. It's not going to give up on that balance, and you can see they'll go to great lengths to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, last topic that we got to get into here, gentlemen, and I'm going to bring it up because I talked about it earlier in the show. The couple of comeback wins here. I said I didn't, we've got back into some of the language message of the stayed in the fight and all that kind of stuff. And we heard that from Scott Arniel. I'll say this. Out and out, and I know that there were back-to-back games, so I think that there is a built-in excuse. I don't like giving excuses, but I think there's a built-in excuse. The Jets got to their hotel room at 3 a.m. last night. It's hard to recuperate and come out the way that they did, so they came out slow. So there's a bit of a built-in excuse, but at the same time, I don't want to give too much of an excuse, because for me, it's 2 nights that the Jets came out and were fairly no-shows in the first period, and we're lucky to be as close in the 2 games that I saw they were. And this, to me, are repetitive patterns that we've seen from this team in years past. And the one thing I just did not like about the Jets when they did that is they'd pull off these victories and they'd kind of pat themselves on the back, and they'd be really proud about it. And they'd say, yeah, we stayed in the fight. And they'd kind of, I've said it before, not Dylan Sandberg. Brendan Dillon said earlier in the season, the Jets relied too often on skill. Well, to me, that's what he was talking about. Games where they didn't put in an honest effort. They got caved in, and they would skill their way back into games. I think to a degree that's what we saw here tonight. The Jets skilled players showed up and got this done. The reason why I'm a little more okay with this is because we asked Scott Arniel about it, and he'd said, we're the type of team, we don't give up, we don't panic, all that kind of stuff. But he did say this, and I thought it was important. He said, we don't want to get into this habit. I don't feel that I heard a lot of that in the Paul Maurice era. I think what I felt from that Jets team is they were okay going lackluster into games and not giving an honest effort, because they knew on a lot of the nights they could do just enough to pull out the victory. I think that's what happened last night, and I think that's what happened tonight. So I'm not entirely letting the Jets off the hook. But what I'm hearing from the Jets coaching staff is that, listen, it's great that this team has the ability to do that and to get into games, but we better not be making a habit of this, because that's not going to cut it, and it's not going to make us the kind of team we need to be when the chips are on the table at the end of the year. Scotty, am I off base with that?
No, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. Like I don't see it being the same way, because I don't think you're getting the. What was the line from Blake? Blake Wheeler used to always say this line after the Jets would win, and I can't remember, but it's essentially, it was almost like, well, we won. Like, what does it matter, And they would never, like you said, kind of take ownership of why they won, or just really kind of spell it out. And you look at Cole Perfetti tonight talking. It's like, I mean, the first kind of things he said, and he mentioned it like 2 or 3 times, was the fact that they need to be better at the start. He mentioned the resiliency and all that kind of stuff, and whatever, all the things that the Jets obviously showed tonight. But I'm not done. I could all night. I because of being around this team as much as we all have, this year, being around how this new coaching staff, new leadership group, and all that stuff. I think this team actually takes the time to learn from its mistakes. I don't feel like they rest on the laurels of Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and Nick Ehlers and those guys just bailing them out. I mean, arguably, Mark Scheifele might have been able to do that, but Kyle Connor isn't bailing them out right now. He's got 1 goal all season. The Jets are relying on a structure right now to help keep them in games, and staying within that structure even when it doesn't look so good, especially last night against Los Angeles, where it was a bad game. It was a bad first period. It went completely off the rails, but the Jets figured out a way to at least stay with their structure. And I think that's the difference this year, is that there is a structure. There is a purpose to what they're doing, as Mark Scheifele has said. And they still see that even through, the tough times in a game where it's not going so well. It's almost like they can kind of recall, okay, well, if we just keep doing this, and they've had some positive reinforcement in that part where it's, it hasn't always gone well for them, but they've been able to kind of fight their way back into it. But I think that is, again, they're not losing the way that they're supposed to play. I think you saw tonight, in the third period especially, that this is a team that went looking for a goal, but they weren't sacrificing on the other end. I think they were outshot Arizona, I think, like 13 or 14-2 in the third period. They weren't giving up a bunch of odd man rushes. to try and make offense. They were doing, I hate using this word, but they were playing the game the right way. And that's what allowed them to kind of get back into the game. They were playing defense by playing offense, and they weren't giving up a lot of stuff. So I think this team has learned to play a certain style and stay within that style, even when it gets rough. And I think if you talk to Rick Bowness about that, you would see that. So, anyways, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm not with you completely, Sean. I mean, the shots on goal in the first were 9-7. The attempts were.
They started out 7-2 though.
18 to 15.
They started out 7-2.
No, fair. They were slow out of the gate.
It was a bad start. There's no denying that.
Sorry, I'm not denying it at all. I'm saying that at the end of the first period, the shot attempts were 18 to 15, and the night before they were 33 to 2 or whatever the heck they were. So to me, it's a night and day difference. But you're right that the first 5 minutes or 8 minutes weren't very good for the Jets. But yesterday they kind of held on for dear life, and today they flipped the script. They dominated the third period, 13 to 2, as Scotty said. To me, I don't think that was another reversion. That was more of a back-to-back scenario. But you're right. I mean, they cannot afford to be starting by giving teams 2-goal deficits all the time. Adam Lowry said it after the LA game. Cole Perfetti said it again today. I mean, that's not their MO, or that's not something where I think they're sitting back and saying, hey, you know what? No bigs if we don't start out well. I think this is something that they will attack when they get back to practicing with a little bit more regularity. And I think that the focus is going to be important for them when it comes to starting on time. I mean, you can't win in this league if you're constantly relying on pulling the old rabbit out of a hat. But I think that they did. I would even say too, the improvement from obviously there's also their opponent may have had something to do with their ability to turn the game on its head as well. At the same time, the Coyotes are a team that works hard, but the game kind of got a little bit. The game didn't need to be this close. The Jets were 0 for 5 on the man advantage, and they had numerous opportunities to at least build a lead, if not put the game out of reach, rather than have to win it in overtime after that great play by Dubois to Wheeler. I think that I know Scott O'Neill was putting on a brave face and saying they're creating some looks and generating. They are creating some looks, but their puck movement is not quick enough. Their lanes that are often open are not open currently. Kyle Connor's not getting a lot of one-timers available, and they need to create something else. They're starting to force plays that aren't there, and to me that means. Actually, I thought that their second unit actually moved the puck quite efficiently, and Cole Perfetti was right in the middle of all of that. So, anyways, we should probably wrap her up.
Yeah, probably wrap her up. But I agree with you on the power play. I think they need to move Cole Perfetti and Blake Wheeler around because it's gone anemic again, right? This is the same power play we saw last year, now without Nikolai Ehlers on it, and it's boring again. It's not effective. They're not getting the looks, as Kenny said, to Kyle Connor. It's just not very good anymore. And I think I'm not blaming Blake Wheeler for this, but it's just the way that it works now without that creativity with Nikolai Ehlers. And I think they need somebody else to come in there and kind of return that a little bit. I don't think Blake's built for the top power play anymore. And I think they're reverting to the way that they played last year with him on it, and it's just it's boring and ineffective, as we've seen tonight and in the last few games. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
It's funny. T-Well says Renny has never seen a Jets win he didn't hate. It's funny because T-Will thinks I'm negative. I just got a text from Hammy. I don't know if he's still in the show, but he thinks we're being way too easy on the Jets. So hopefully, I know he's going to continue on the trip, and he's going to be there for the Sunday game against Vegas. Hopefully, I know he's got work to do, but maybe he can join the show because it sounds like he wants to jump off the top row here with an elbow drop on all three of us. And I'd love for that to happen. I love a little bit of controversy. We'll have to make that happen. We probably didn't talk enough about Wheeler on this show. That's my bad. I know Julie Sue won't be happy with that. We'll get to it. I promise. I I got to fly in I got to be at the airport in less than 4 hours. So we should get going here. Once again, though, I'm absolutely blown away at the amount of people in the chat room at this time of night. Thank you so much for your interest and being around for that. If you like what you see, make sure you hit the like button. It really helps us reach new people and just add to our chat room. Click subscribe if you haven't done so either in that situation. And we just want to make sure that we give a shout out to Vittorio Rossi, Trans-Canada Brewing, and the Johnston Group. We've said this before. I'll say it after every show or at the end of every show. If you appreciate the conversations that are being had in these spaces, please appreciate our sponsors who are investing in those conversations happening. They wouldn't be happening without them. So thanks to them. Thank you all for tuning in. Really looking forward to seeing you all again after Sunday when they play the Vegas Golden Knights, and then back to more hospitable hours after that point. Send us your Lamplighters, everybody, if you want a chance to get in and win that 8-pack of frosty cold Lamplighter Amber Ale. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you back in Winnipeg.